The world's most terrifying dictator, how does he truly control his people? What does daily life look like in North Korea? Even imagining it feels suffocating. A place where the government decides every detail of your life. Who will live where, who will work where, what children will study, even what clothes and hairstyle you're allowed to have. The movies you watch, the songs you hear, even your smartphone system can betray you. Imagine your phone randomly taking a screenshot and sending it to the authorities so they can see exactly what you were doing. That's daily reality in the world's most closed-off dictatorship. And if you make even the smallest mistake, not only you, but your children and even grandchildren might be punished. This is the infamous law of guilt by association. Families are forced to live in fear of each other, unable to speak freely, because anyone could be reported, even by their own blood. But the most horrifying stories come from survivors who lived through the nightmare. In 1981, a pregnant woman was imprisoned in one of North Korea's most brutal camps. Camp 14, she gave birth behind bars to a boy named Shin Dong-hyuk, who never knew freedom as a child. He grew up in this camp, surviving on corn porridge, grass, and rats. For him, life was starvation, beatings, and endless fear. The rules were merciless. If you tried to escape, you were shot dead. If you knew someone was planning to escape and didn't report it, you too were executed. At just 13 years old, Shin overheard his mother and brother planning to escape. Hungry and desperate, he reported them to the guards, hoping for extra food. 7 months later, he was dragged in front of all the prisoners to watch his mother hang and his brother shot. The guards forced him to witness every moment. After that, he was tortured for months, scarred both physically and emotionally forever. Years later, at the age of 23, he finally managed to escape and reach South Korea. His story, told in the book Escape from Camp 14, revealed to the world a glimpse of the living hell inside these camps. Survivors like him describe them as places worse than death, where hope barely survives. And yet, outside those camps, life isn't much brighter. North Korea is home to about 25 million people. On the world map, it sits above South Korea, bordered by China. But when you look at the region from space at night, you see South Korea glowing with light, China glittering with energy, and then a patch of pure darkness where North Korea lies. That darkness says more than any statistic ever could. In this so-called Democratic People's Republic of Korea, people go to bed by 7 in the evening because they have no electricity, no light, no entertainment. In the 1990s, famine struck so hard that people ate frogs just to stay alive. Between 500,000 and 2 million people are believed to have died from hunger during those years. Families faced impossible choices, with elderly relatives sacrificing themselves so that the young could eat. It's a tragedy created not by nature, but by politics and pride. What makes this worse is that North Korea wasn't always this broken. In the decades after the Korean War, its economy once outpaced South Korea's. People enjoyed free healthcare, housing, education, even heating and transport. But when the Soviet Union collapsed in the 1990s, North Korea's lifeline of cheap oil and aid was cut off. The economy crashed, power plants stopped, and starvation spread everywhere. Offers of foreign aid came, but only if North Korea abandoned its nuclear ambitions. The regime refused, preferring weapons over its own people's survival. While the countryside starved, the capital Pyongyang was cleaned and polished, the poor were expelled, and the elites enjoyed privileges the rest of the country cannot imagine. To the outside world, Pyongyang was a showpiece of socialist strength. But outside its borders lay nothing but hunger and silence. This dictatorship's roots stretch back to the Second World War. When Japan surrendered, Korea was split into 2 zones. The Soviet Union took control of the North. The United States backed the South. Just like Germany, Korea was divided by ideology. In the North, Kim Il-sung rose to power, founding a dynasty that continues today with his grandson, Kim Jong-un. What began as a communist state transformed into a family dictatorship where everything serves the ruling family as survival. Education, fashion, food, even love and marriage are dictated by loyalty to the regime. Schools exist not to teach, but to indoctrinate. Teachers often ignore students unless bribed, forcing families to hire private tutors. After school, military service for men lasts up to 10 years. And while North Korea holds elections every 5 years, they're a cruel joke. Only one candidate appears on the ballot, always from the ruling party. If you dare to vote against, you risk being branded insane or a traitor. Even the smallest personal choices are stolen from people. Hairstyles are limited to 15 approved cuts for men and 15 for women. Jeans, branded clothes, short skirts, and even dyed hair are banned. A fashion police roams the streets, cutting clothes, issuing fines, or jailing those who break these absurd rules. Why such obsession? Because the regime believes fashion is a cultural invasion from the West, a threat to their control. They even produce propaganda shows claiming that long hair lowers intelligence. That's the level of absurdity and cruelty people live under. Before I continue, let me pause here. If you feel even a spark of outrage, if you believe people deserve to live with freedom and dignity, I ask you to subscribe right now, because together, by spreading awareness of these hidden stories, we can give a voice to those trapped in silence. Daily life in North Korea is controlled in ways most of us cannot even imagine. Traveling from one town to another requires government permission. Leaving the country without approval is considered treason, punishable by prison camps, torture, or even death. Families are destroyed over a single relative's choice to flee. Shin Dong-hyuk's family was punished simply because his uncle escaped to South Korea. During the pandemic, border guards were given shoot-on-sight orders. 14 people were executed just for attempting to cross. And yet, desperate North Koreans keep trying, most escaping into China. But there, too, they face betrayal. China often sends them back to the very nightmare they risked everything to leave. Entertainment is another prison. Foreign movies and shows are banned, replaced by endless propaganda praising Kim Jong-un as if he were a god. But the hunger for stories cannot be silenced. South Korean dramas and films are smuggled across borders on DVDs and USB sticks. People risk death to watch them in secret. Windows covered, sound barely audible. In 2022, teenagers were sentenced to 12 years of hard labor just for watching a South Korean drama. Another young man was executed publicly for distributing films. Yet the black markets thrive, selling not just food and medicine, but these forbidden glimpses of freedom. With each smuggled movie, people discover a world better than the lies they were raised on. The internet is no escape either. For most citizens, it doesn't exist. Instead, there's a censored internet of a few government-approved sites. Even this is monitored, with librarians controlling every click. Phones are designed to spy on their owners, randomly taking screenshots and sending them to authorities. Every app must be downloaded in person at a government store. The suffocation is complete. Religion too is crushed. Christianity, especially, is outlawed. In 2009, a woman was executed simply for distributing Bibles. Her husband and children were thrown into a camp. Instead of religion, the Kim family has become the nation's gods. Pictures of Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il hang in every home, inspected by secret police. People risk punishment, even death, if these portraits are not properly cared for. One woman was investigated for saving her children instead of the portraits during a house fire. Another man saw his father sent to prison simply for accidentally soiling a newspaper that carried Kim Jong-il's image. Behind this worship lies a crumbling reality. Nearly 70% of the population lives in poverty, unable to afford basic necessities. Salaries are so worthless that a doctor's monthly income can't even buy 1 kilo of rice. Instead, families survive through the underground markets, where women play the central role. Married women aren't forced into government jobs, so they dominate these black markets, earning over 70% of household income. Known as Jangmadang, these markets have become not only centers of survival, but also of information, spreading awareness about life outside North Korea. They are seeds of quiet revolution, run mostly by women, challenging the system from within. But oppression doesn't stop there. Society is divided by a cruel class system called Songbun, which decides everything from where you live to whom you marry. At the bottom, those labeled hostile suffer discrimination, starvation, and surveillance. Families spy on each other, children betray parents, no one trusts anyone, the state thrives on suspicion. Add to this forced labor 12 to 18 hours a day in mines, farms, and construction. Thousands are sent abroad to Russia, China, and the Middle East to work as modern-day slaves, with their wages stolen by the regime. Inside the camps, conditions are unimaginable. Starvation, torture, public executions, children beaten to death for stealing food. Survivors compare them to Nazi concentration camps. Guards are even ordered to kill all prisoners in the event of war, erasing evidence of their crimes. So how does this dictatorship endure for more than 75 years? Through fear, through the Songbun class system, and through endless propaganda. From childhood, people are taught that Kim Jong-un is almost divine. State media fabricates absurd stories, like him learning to shoot at age 3 or demanding a shovel to deliver an entire mountain instead of a single apple. News about the outside world is twisted, showing disasters and corruption abroad, while insisting that North Koreans are the happiest people alive. A lie repeated so often it almost becomes truth, and yet cracks are forming. The rise of black markets, the spread of smuggled films, the growth of bribery, these are weakening the regime's grip. People now see that rules can be bent, that loyalty can be bought, that the world outside isn't as dark as they were told. Slowly, trust is being rebuilt through these illegal exchanges. Neighbors watch movies together, knowing that if their friend risks watching too, they can trust them. This quiet unity is something the dictatorship cannot fully control. And in that unity lies the seed of change. Every dictatorship sows the seeds of its own downfall. The fear that keeps people silent today may one day be broken by courage and unity. North Korea's future is uncertain, but history shows that no regime lasts forever. As we hear these stories, we are reminded of how precious freedom truly is. The freedom to choose what to wear, what to eat, what to watch, what to believe. Simple freedoms that millions still live without. Never take them for granted. Now, I want to hear from you. After listening to these stories, what shocked you the most? Was it the camps, the famine, or the absurd rules about hairstyles and jeans? Share your thoughts in the comments below, because remembering and talking about these realities is the least we can do for those who cannot speak freely themselves.